So today topic is more on the challenges faced by open source maintainer, and I think as an open source maintainer or founder of Biodrop, so I will start this whole conversation with the introduction. Yeah, I know Eddie does not need an introduction, but still, yeah, go ahead, Eddie.
Thank you so much, Pradumna, and it's great to geek out with you today. Great to see people in the audience, Marino, Krish, Chinmay, and so many others as well. So everyone do go check them out. So I've been in open source for well over 10 years before there was GitHub. And it's just great to get more people into open source because I really see it as a two-way street. I feel the projects can benefit from the fresh and new perspective, and also the people can benefit from getting mentorship or learning or growing the network. Like there's just so many positives for everybody. So it's super exciting. And I work, as you mentioned, full time on the Biodrop project. So that's super exciting. If anyone wants to geek out with me, you know where to find me. If you want to geek out with Pradumna, you know where to find him on the Lifecycle project.
That is amazing. Yeah. Before like jumping into the thing, I think many of the people are contributor. Just want to make the stage very equal to everyone. So what is the actual difference between like a maintainer and a contributor to just make the everyone on the same line? So what do you think, Eddie? What is a major difference between a contributor and a maintainer of a project?
That's a really good question, and I don't think there is much of a difference. There is just one small difference. So I think like 99% is the same. They both can make contributions. They both can review other pull requests. They both can create issues. I think there's just like one or two small things that is slightly different. So with being a maintainer, you can manage the issues. So everyone can comment on them and so forth. But as a maintainer, you can change the labels. You can assign it to different people. And as a maintainer on the pull requests, both can review, leave inline comments, overall comments, approve, not approve, etc. But with the maintainer, they get the extra button of accepting the pull request, merging it in, or closing it and saying no thank you. Otherwise, everything else is the same, which is why I think being a contributor gets you 95% of the way there of being a maintainer, as long as you try and do those other things. I see a lot of people just try and keep raising more and more pull requests, and I think they need to slow down a bit and raise pull requests, absolutely, but then they also need to review other people's pull requests, and then their pull requests will just become so much better because they'll get to see it from kind of the other side, let's say.
Really love your point. The interesting thing is talking about my maintaining what is a journey. I started with the idea about involve the people like they insist you to do code reviews, and it's so smooth. Like you don't like feel like okay, this is very different from contributing because they have open projects. I know Eddie, you have a lot of experience with open source, and currently with your project with the Biodrop, it has grown massively. Like it has around 2,300 users, and it gets lots of PR. So what is your biggest challenge currently as open source maintainer, reviewer, or as an owner, like in general? So
thank you so much. We're almost actually at 3,000 users now. I think we're like 150 shy of 3,000. So it's growing really fast. So my challenges are, I think when people start their project, their open source projects, their challenges is to get stars and contributors, and then once they when they're consistent on the project and they learn in public and all the rest, then they'll get stars and they'll get contributors. And another challenge they'll face is um, well, they've received the contribution, but maybe they don't understand it because it's really specific on a specific tool, or so that's another challenge. And I get those challenges still, but in addition to that, I get the other challenge, which is a good problem to have. So it's not a complaint or anything, but I get so many notifications from contributions, and I feel really bad because it might take me days or weeks to get back to people. And to be honest, people can help with this in the community. I have maintainers, and they're amazing, but we don't even have to be a maintainer to help. As we were saying before, people could review other people's pull requests. So when I look at it, it's already gone through a few kind of iterations. They could also do project management stuff. Like, is this a duplication of this issue? Just helping me kind of, and the other maintainers keep up with those. because the maintainers are they have life, they have families, they have jobs, etc., and so forth. So if someone has, like, I don't know, 30 minutes a day and they want to accelerate their career in communication, collaboration, and grow a network, then they can get involved and in any open source project, not just mine, but any open source project, and the project will be really happy to have their fresh perspective, and they could pick up small, I say small issues, but it doesn't have to even be an issue. They could pick up small tasks, or they could pick up big tasks, and that might change depending on where they are on that day or that week or that month. If they're starting a new job, they're going to be busier and less time for it. Whereas if they're having, it's a quiet time of the year for their work and family and so forth, they might have more time, and they could give more if they wanted to. In terms any help like that, I love it when people comment on an issue and say, I think this is a duplicate of this, or this has been raised like a month ago, and here is the discussion on the issue. It was closed because of X, Y, and Z, and then linked to that. Like, all these things really, really help. So when the maintainers or me get to them, you can kind of see it's already been taken care of, and it just makes our lives so much easier. So like I said, it's a good problem to have. But I feel bad, because people put a lot of effort into their issues and their pull requests, and I feel bad like a week later or 2 weeks later I get to it. But the smaller the pull request, the more likely it is to get merged. I think I merged, like, I don't know, 10 pull requests yesterday, but they were all very small, and it doesn't mean they add less value. In fact, they add more value because we can get them merged, and then therefore they can add value. Unfortunately, the bigger pull requests don't add necessarily more value, and until they're merged, they actually add no value. So that's why smaller pull requests are better, and people can think about breaking down their pull requests, and they can always discuss this in the issue as well. But yeah, notifications is definitely a challenge I have at the moment. So thanks everyone for their help and patience.
Yeah, I agree with the breaking down of the pull request, because I agree, like, this saves maintenance time as well as the contributor time, because your PR gets merged easily, and I think as the PR takes longer time to merge, it creates conflicts and everything. Like, so yeah, I agree with that. My second question is, how do you manage overwhelming, as you mentioned about the pull requests and issues? This is my follow-up question regarding that. How you manage overwhelming number of pull requests? Because sometimes you are the single person, or there are 20 or 30 PR, and with the bio drop I see, this is like, super great, like people are raising PR. This means actually people care for project. But how do you manage those issues? Because people are so enthusiasm about the project. Okay, this, I need that. How do you manage those pull requests and issues? Like, how you triage them? So yeah, this is the question.
I don't think I manage it very well. I do my best, but I think there's always improvements to be made. I mean, to be honest, it's the maintainers. They really, really help. A lot of the pull requests, when I get to them, they have gone through various iterations, and other maintainers encourage people to try and make things smaller, like you said, to reduce conflicts. I think people think adding more changes to a pull request adds more value, but it doesn't. And it creates more work for them, because if they get conflicts when we merge other pull requests, then they've got more work and more stress from them, and then the pull requests stay open for longer, and then they get more conflicts, and it's just this kind of vicious cycle. Keep your pull request as small as possible. It just needs to be enough to add value, and then you can raise another pull request, and it's better to probably raise, I don't know, 10 in a month than one in a month, even if they end up being the same thing, because we can get those 10 merged quicker, to the user, and therefore it can start adding value to the user faster as well.
Really love your point about this, the value of the part. Like, we generally often say, like, about the non-code contribution, those are not valuable. But I think you and me both talk about this thing. Like, code is a very small part of the open source, and everything around is super important. Let's go ahead with another question. Like, I really love this question, because I want to hear different perspective, because different people have different strategies. So yeah, my next question is, what tools or strategies have been most helpful in maintaining the code quality? Or
yeah, I think it's a really good question, and it kind of follows on from what Mart was saying. So automate as much as possible. This is really, really important. Things like Linter, Prettier, just so many amazing tools, and with GitHub Actions, you can do that with a few lines of YAML config, and other people can contribute those to the project. This is not to remove any communication or collaboration. It's to just remove the noise, right? Rather than talking about the spacing or the semicolon or whatever it is, let's still have a conversation, but let's have a conversation about the more exciting things, like actually what the code is trying to do, or or the changes are trying to achieve, rather than those sort of indentation issues, let's say. So yeah, automate as much as possible. Have automated tests. For people contributing, I'd highly recommend checking the GitHub actions when they run. So if they fail for your pull request, go have a look and find out why. This is like my most common reply to people, or most common reason why pull requests don't get merged is they have made a small change, there's an automated test that fails, or something is wrong, and it's easy fix. They've put all the effort in. They just need that little kind of final step. To give an example, we have a page that has default icons available for BioDrop, and someone's added some more default icons like favorites on there, which is great. And they actually calculate the favorites from the database and what are the most popular ones. I shouldn't say favorites, I should say most popular ones. Amazing. They put all that work in it. They aggregating all the icons that people are using in the database. Yeah, the test failed because instead of showing 4 hard-coded icons, they're now showing, I think, like 10. So you just need to change in one of the test files, like 4 to 10. Like, that's it. They've done all the hard work. But it's been sitting there for a few days and hasn't been fixed. It's a real shame because I think their changes add value to the project. And yes, I could go in and change that. But if you times that like by 20 or 30, like Pradumna said, I do that sometimes, but then it can take me days just to go through pull requests and just do the last steps on them. So it'd be super helpful if people just had a look at that.
I have one follow-up question regarding that, and I will. Like in general maintaining cycle, like what about the current cycle is like, okay, someone raised the pull request, like a couple of pull requests, and the thing is like whenever you want to like review those pull requests or want to test out those changes, like if a person has changes like 100 line of code or 50 line of code, so the current strategy of most of the project is like they pull down the changes locally, if they are not using any kind of automation tool. So they pull down changes locally and test out those changes. If it's a website or if it's a SaaS product, so they just test out locally and then they approve that PR. Or either there is another case, they just merge by assumption. So what your thoughts on this? Like this, because you can understand this, the process is very tedious if you are getting like 20 or 30 or 40 PRs a day, or like a week as well. So pulling down the changes for each PR and then running it locally and then finding those what is a feedback or giving those feedback. So what are your thoughts on this? Like,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Putting down the change, especially if you're working on something, right? So most of the time we're working on something locally, and so to pull something down to test it, we need to then stash our changes or commit it to a branch. And you can kind of, you're in the middle of something, you don't want to change. You might have the database in a certain state. You might have like untracked and tracked files, and it depends on what you're working on. I mean, if it's a typo, I do just merge it in, like fixing a typo or fixing some documentation or text. But I think as soon as it goes anything more than that, it's definitely worth testing, because I have merged some things that were quite small and then I found out actually broke something. So I do highly recommend people taking the effort to test it. And there are so many different ways to do that. I know for the BioDrop project, you updated the GitHub action where it can deploy to the preview environment, which is like production like environment, which is awesome. And we have a preview kind of database. I know that Lifecycle also has that as well and deploys to AWS. So there are different ways to do it, and I recommend people do check it. It's definitely worth testing. And I think if someone approves the pull request, being a maintainer or not maintainer, they need to say if they tested it or not. So, because my assumption is when someone approves something, that they've reviewed the changes and they've tested the changes, which is why I like it that in BioDrop, people write, I approve, but I've tested it, it works well, but I haven't reviewed the changes, or vice versa. I've reviewed the changes, but I haven't tested it. And that's really helpful. And that still adds value, right? You don't have to do both. If you're in the mood for just having a click around and testing it, great. If you're not in the mood for that and you're in the mood for actually just seeing the changes, then that's also great. It still adds value. It still adds that perspective. If you can do both, obviously awesome, but you don't have to. But just make it clear what has been checked, because that's caught us out a few times as well. So I think it's that whole transparency and communication is really important. Maybe we should have a template for that. You're giving me ideas. I'm making notes. Back to you, Pradumna.
So yeah, my final question is that like, what is your strategy going forward, and what you are what to say your future plans for the biodrop? Of course, this question is totally related to you. Yeah.
Oh wow, thank you so much. Yeah, well, we just did a soft launch on Premium yesterday, so we're not shouting about it on socials, but it is there if people do want to use it. And then now we're going to add some more features to Premium, and then more features to the free version. All of it is 100% open source, and then we're going to redesign the app, actually, because we've got a new logo, we've got a new name, got new branding colors, but the app hasn't been redesigned, so we're in the process of doing that. But I think there's going to be a lot of work to kind of recode that. And there's also a lot of refactoring I want to do at the same time. So I think that'll probably be after Hacktoberfest, because I don't want PRs coming in really at the same time, because we'll get more conflicts if we're moving files around and so forth. So what I'll probably do is wait for Hacktoberfest to finish. We'll get more people contributing to the project, helping them, pairing with them, Discord calls, live streams, etc. And then I think in November, hopefully the design will be complete in terms of the visuals, and then we'll start coding that hopefully in November, which will be super exciting. Yeah, that's the plan really.
Space. I just want to uh, get your final thoughts from your Eddie, and yeah, from your
You're a
closing.
great host. Thank you so much for having me, Praduma. It's always great to geek out everyone here on open source. We're discussing it here. Hopefully, we can actually, take some action, and hopefully, you all get into open source today. So, I mean, come and get involved in open source. There's a variety of issues on many projects. Lifecycle is open source. Biodrop's open source, and so many other projects. See what your friends are contributing to. Join the community. Praduma was saying he's also got a project as well that's got quite a few thousand stars. That's why learning in public is really important, because then you can share what you learn on Twitter, and then people can discover your project and get involved as well.